So it turns out one of my fellow libertarian YouTubers, Filthy Heretic, is under attack for his religion of all things. Let's have a look.
Anarcho-capitalism, which basically says that if you remove all government and embrace free markets and look after ourselves first, others go last, society would just magically prosper. Well,
So right off the bat, we have a massive mischaracterization of anarcho-capitalism. Anarcho-capitalists don't argue for putting themselves first and everyone else last. Rather, they argue that individuals acting in their own rational self-interest will mutually benefit one another in voluntary exchanges. Most ANCAPs don't oppose voluntary forms of aid or charity to those who have fallen upon hard times.
I am Andrew Ryan, and I'm here to ask you a question. Is a man not entitled to the sweat of his brow? No, says the man in Washington, it belongs to the poor. No, says the man in the Vatican, it belongs to God. No, says the man in Moscow, it belongs to everyone.
Okay, I don't see anything wrong with the argument being presented in the video there. All they're saying is that people should be entitled to the fruits of their own labor, and well, they're right. If I own myself, doesn't it also stand to reason that I own my time and labor, and therefore the fruits of my time and labor?
that is until some rogue nation just comes rolling into your little cap stand and kills everyone. Most Muslims. Yep. And that leads to the main problem with your narrative ANCAPs.
So your argument seems to be that without taxation, the people living under anarcho-capitalism would have no way to defend themselves from an invading army. And your justification for this position is what exactly? Do you really think that millions of people, most of whom would probably own guns, would just stand there and throw their arms up if a hostile force started to invade?
You're all a bunch of cuckish globalists.
Notice the whole dichotomy that he tries to create between nationalists and globalists, as if not being one somehow entails automatically being the other. Both nationalism and globalism are forms of collectivism, which is something that individualist ideologies such as anarcho-capitalism rejects on its face. So Filthy Heretic, being an anarcho-capitalist, obviously wouldn't fit into either category.
Same problem that led to the mass murder of innocent Europeans for the simple reason of not submitting Islam.
How are you pinning this on anarcho-capitalists exactly? Most ANCAPs and libertarians believe in free worship and don't believe that people should be attacked or threatened for their religious views.
The same globalism that led to mass Muslim rape gangs.
Again, how is this a problem that stems from anarcho-capitalism? Anarcho-capitalists believe in the non-aggression principle, which rape gangs definitely violate. And how sick and fucked up is it that this guy's trying to blame these rapes on anarcho-capitalists or Muslims or globalists or any other person other than the rapist? The rapist is responsible for the rape. Period. End of story.
The same globalism that's destroying Western democratic values as we know it.
What Western democratic values are being destroyed by globalism or anarcho-capitalism or whatever? Western democratic values is such a vague and amorphous term that it pretty much doesn't mean anything. You might as well be talking gibberish.
But I'm going to save for another video, since that's going to be part of my video criticizing anarcho-capitalism in general.
Spoiler alert, the video is utter dog shit and I plan to respond to it as well.
But in this video, I'm going to be focusing on a certain someone who just happens to put out this certain video in which he, a self-avowed anarcho-capitalist, is revealed to be a Catholic.
Now, I say this as a practicing Catholic.
What? What the fuck?
Yeah, just let that sink in for a second.
Yeah, Filthy Heretic is a Catholic, and what of it? You act like this is some sort of scandalous revelation.
If you cringed at the mere thought of a Catholic anarchist, you would be correct.
Are you going to explain why it's ridiculous for someone to be both a Catholic and an anarchist?
But anyways, let's watch the part of the video in which he essentially says true to his name.
Okay then, I guess not.
And commits heresy against the same Catholic Church he claims to be a part of.
He just wanted to be liked by the Chinese anti-theist totalitarian regime. At least Judas got some silver out of it when he sold out Jesus Christ.
Sold out, you say? Well, sorry to tell you this, but the Catholic Church was never really a bastion of liberal values, and has historically suppressed anyone who spoke out against it, or anyone who spoke out against the exclusive, elitist, corrupt clergy that claimed that you had to do everything that they said word for word, otherwise you wouldn't be saved. Simple faith in God wasn't good enough. They wanted people to conform.
So what he's doing here is conflating the values of the Catholic Church with the actions of the Catholic Church. These are two very different things. It's no secret that the Catholic Church has a bit of a checkered past, from the violence committed during the Crusades and by the Inquisition to more modern examples, such as the way they've treated LGBT people. But just because someone might not necessarily agree with every single action taken by the Catholic Church, doesn't mean they can't still believe in the core principles that the church is built on. Filthy Heretic can still believe in the core principles of Catholicism without necessarily having to agree with every single action taken by the Catholic Church.
The feudalistic status quo at a time, basically holding the peasants as moral hostages and guilted them into toiling the fields, basically as slaves, while the priesthood lived in luxury. Disgusting!
So you do realize that the Catholic Church didn't invent feudalism, right? Feudalism was very common throughout the entire world during the Middle Ages, including many places that didn't even practice Catholicism. And while yes, it is true that higher-ranking members of the clergy lived better off than the peasantry, so did pretty much every other social class during the Middle Ages. So this is hardly a mark against the Catholic Church.
This is exactly why Protestantism took root. To protest as in protest in Protestantism, the church is dictatorial stranglehold over the grace of God and to awaken people to the truth that salvation lies in the hands of the practitioner and their faith alone. Sola Fide, not an unelected, unaccountable, bureaucratic body.
So I'm not sure what sources you've been using to research your historical facts, but the Church of Protestantism wasn't founded to protest feudalism or even the power of the Catholic Church. It was founded in opposition to the selling of indulgences. That is, people trying to buy their way into heaven, which is also something Filthy Heretic happens to disagree with.
With all that blood on their hands, it comes as no surprise the Catholic Church, through most of its history, supported slavery.
Well, I mean, you're not really one to talk there, since you support taxation, which is a form of slavery, since it's essentially a third-party claim to the time and labor of another person against their will.
Any Catholic missionaries speaking out against the rulings were excommunicated and or killed. Oh, but you argue the Catholic Church has reformed itself by the 20th century? That they all of a sudden became nice and just sometime around the 1890s onwards? Or World War I onwards? Except, no.
Well, I mean, the Catholic Church has come a long way since the Middle Ages. Now, yes, of course, there is still room for improvement, like I mentioned earlier in the video, the issue of LGBT people, but it's not like people are still being tortured or burned at the stake or things like that.
In fact, the church not only encouraged, but also directly inspired the creation of many clerically fascist governments who had Catholicism as part of their state ideology.
So yeah, just because a fascist government might say that their official state religion is Catholicism, doesn't mean they're going to abide by the principles of Catholicism. Nor does it mean that every single person who believes in Catholicism is automatically a fascist. This would be like arguing if a fascist's favorite food is ice cream, then everyone who likes ice cream must be a fascist.
Such as...
No mercy. Mercy is for the weak.
Just in preparation. With the aid of my secret weapon.
So this pretty much should go without saying, but flashing a bunch of Wikipedia articles on screen, circling the word Catholic and then not explaining shit isn't an argument. Also, this guy doesn't link to any of the sources he uses in the description of the video, so there's no way for me to go and verify them for accuracy.
All of these Catholic regimes killed millions more and caused a fucking world war, all because they wanted nothing more than, just like in the Middle Ages, the extermination of all supposed heretics, even past World War II.
Which World War was caused by Catholics exactly? The First World War was caused by Serbian rebels, and the Second World War was caused by the German Nationalist Party, the latter of which being openly hostile against Catholics.
The Catholics in America openly supported the equally oppressive, racist, white supremacist Democratic Party.
You do realize that most Catholics are actually Republican, right? Democrats are much more likely to be atheist or secular.
And even to this day, won't let a woman preach the word of God.
Yeah, and why should they have to? Why should other people have to conform their religious beliefs and the way their church operates to your sensibilities? If you disagree with the way that the Catholic Church operates, by all means feel free to start your own church and run it according to your beliefs.
My final word, fuck the Catholic Church.
Well, sir, that's certainly a belief and opinion that you're entitled to, just as Filthy Heretic is entitled to his beliefs and opinions. You don't have to like the Catholic Church, it's totally fine if you don't. This is a free country, everyone's entitled to their opinion, that's fine. But don't strawman and misrepresent people who happen to worship and agree with the Catholic Church. At least not if you don't want to be laughed at. I think I'll end my response here, since this guy doesn't really say anything of substance for the remainder of the video. Yeah, this was obviously bad. I don't really have skin in the game on this issue, since I'm not really a religious person. I just couldn't help but resist to debunk this video since this guy's just so garbage at making arguments. Anyways, until next time, this has been Philosopossum making stupidity play dead. Everyone take care.